If you get this warning, again, likely the clutch is done. Either you're going to have to replace the clutch or take it out, re-grease it, and slap it back in. And that's what I did about, I don't remember if it was 6 or 8 years ago. I disassembled our dryer, repacked it with grease, slapped it back on, and it's been good since. And now it looks like it's done again. So I'm going to start this again, and you're going to see what happens. Right now the clothes are in there, flopping around. It's spinning the clothes to redistribute them. That's what you hear, that slosh. That's I guess I should have left the lid open. But then it's going to start to spin. You hear that grind? And as it's spinning, that clutch is actually winding up. And it's failing. So when you hear it let go, it's actually letting go of the clutch. And the spring retracts again. So this thing's done. I have to just probably take the clothes out, wring it out, run it without clothes in it, may finish and drain the water out of it, and then we're going to have to disassemble it and ooh, that's an awful grind, and re-grease it, and hopefully it'll work again. So I've since emptied the washing machine. There's still a puddle of water inside. I manually wrung out the water from the clothes and threw them in the dryer. Hopefully it'll be okay. And with this, I'm going to let it spin and drain out the water, and then we'll continue with our repair. So with no clothes in, it's actually working and it's actually draining water. It's spinning with no clothes in it. And because there's no load on the clutch, it's able to actually spin without catching itself. And I'll show you where the friction lies later on. The center of the clutch is basically just like a bottom bracket of a bicycle. I don't know if you guys have familiarity with bicycles, but it's basically the same component. The center of the clutch is essentially a bottom bracket of like a bicycle. This is an old square taper type. I take it apart and show it to you, but you can probably find some YouTube videos on a square taper bottom bracket, and just take a look at that. And now, even with no clothes in it, you hear the racket you're hearing? Noisy as heck. It's just metal grinding on metal. Unfortunately, I have to try and finish the cycle so I can empty all the water out before I work on the washing machine. Otherwise, it'll be too heavy for me to manipulate. So here we are. This is actually the third day I'm trying to film this. So we're just going to unplug it for safety reasons. We're going to head and take off the exit hose for the water. I'm just going to plug it with some paper towel. Leave it there so that I don't accidentally pull the entire tube clean off the machine. We're going to have to take off the front face of the washer, and you can either pry this part up with a putty knife, usually right here on this side and on the other side, but I think I've done this enough to where I could just pry it with my hands, and just like that. I forgot to mention you might want to add a piece of painter's tape here on the very front so you don't have the front cover flopping around on you while you're working. And then the two screws you're going to unscrew are right here in the very front. I don't know if you can really see it. One here on this side, and then another on this side. And as always, I have my electric ratchet. The bolts, it's an 8mm, or if you don't have metric, it's an equivalent to a 5/16. off, and as always, make sure you have a magnetic parts tray. Keep parts easier to find. Keep your knee in front of the door, otherwise it'll flop on you. And the whole front hews off, just like on the dryer. If you saw my other video, it has the exact same kind of pegs. I don't know if you can see this right here. It has that peg there, and this one over here, just like the dryer. So as we can see, this is the very front of the washing machine, the big tub. The clutch is right here. I don't know if you can see it. The flashlight's kind of flickering, but it's right here, this part where the belt is wrapped around it. Alright, I'm going to prop up the washer, and I'll try to disassemble that clutch, and I'll show you what to do with it to fix it. Here's the clutch. I've kind of propped the washing machine upward just so I can film easier. You don't really need to prop it up. For this, I'm using a 10mm socket, which is equivalent to 3/8 SAE. The bolt's at the very center of the clutch. I'll see if I can get it from here. It's kind of tight. It's a little bit too tight for the electric ratchet, so I'm just going to use a manual. I'll have to use a 3/8. Enough. So actually what I did is once I loosened it, I just turned the belt to try and loosen the rest of it. From what I remember from doing this the last time is when we put this back, it's going to be a real pain. All right. So that's the bolt. It's a 10mm head. And now the only thing holding the clutch in place is actually the tension between the drive belt and the clutch. And once I slide this belt off, the clutch should just drop straight down. I remember doing this last time, but I remember getting the belt on was a big pain in the butt too. So coming out is easy. Going back up is going to be really hard. So the clutch is out. The belt is loose. Putting it back is going to be a real pain. So this is a drive belt. If you want a replacement, I guess the model number is here. 629-00960. Here's the clutch, now removed. This is all old grease. We'll pop it back on later on. So one of the problems we're going to have putting it back is, you can see as this thing turns, it only turns one direction. So you're going to have to make sure that these two teeth right here are aligned with these two pegs when we pop it back on. To disassemble the clutch, it's you're just going to have to remove these 4 6mm bolts. Are they 6? Yeah, they're 6mm. The equivalent is a 1/4 inch. If you don't have a 1/4 inch. top cover should come off, and all you're going to see is this thing. So what you're going to do is you're going to remove the center bearing and then regrease it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slide this top part off, and you see there's like a lot of resistance. And you can see there's no more grease in here. It's completely gone. These little roller bearings in here. So I'm going to clean this all off as best I can, and then I'm going to repack this inner bearing with grease and slap it back on, and we're back in business. Now I'm just cleaning off the parts, making them shiny again. Nothing special. You can use a strong oxidizing agent to get rid of the rusty stuff. If this is the first time for you to take this apart, chances are you're going to have white powder everywhere, which is the white lithium grease that they've packed this thing with. And it's like really cheap. And the last time I cleaned this out, that's all I had. It was the inside of this clutch was just full of white powder everywhere. And I guess maybe this washer is getting a little old because I'm getting all this rusted stuff now. Maybe there's a bad seal somewhere where it's leaking water. I'm not sure what the deal is, but if we got a leak, that's a much bigger problem. But if you have a load unbalanced problem, then this is more than likely the cause is this clutch bearing. See, there's all this rusted stuff on the top. I'll just skip to the grease packing part because I'll be here cleaning this for a while. What you might want to do is just spray a towel with some brake parts cleaner. Just clean it off and let it air dry. Of course, alternatively, you can just buy a new clutch. Last I checked, they're in the $100 to $200 range, but if you don't want to part with the cash, just clean this up and clean the insides of the bearings. And again, let it air dry and then repack it with grease and slap it back together. So I've got it mostly clean, and like I did more than 5 or 6 years ago, I just regreased the inside of this bearing with synthetic grease. And since this is the Bicycle Crossroads channel, I'm using Fillwood grease again, the green stuff. You can find probably any good synthetic grease is good, will do. Just repack the inside of this so all the little bearings or roller bearings, I'm not sure what these are considered, needle bearings, are covered so that the bearing will move freely when I put it on top of this thing. So this should move freely like this. And if it doesn't, that's what's going to trigger the clutch. Because what happens is when it doesn't move freely, you see this peg right here? This catches and the spring pulls the clutch until it triggers a sensor. Okay? So as long as it moves freely, it should be good to go. So as long as it's moving freely like this, when your machine's on a spin cycle, and again I don't recommend using the max extract or the high spin because that's what really dehydrates this grease and causes the unbalanced load error in both the 6800 and 9800 model. Alright, so that's pretty much it. After this is just reassembly. So just want to make sure that this peg is in the slot. Hopefully these pegs are in the same orientation where you pulled it out so that when you slap it back in it'll slide right in the spot. Let's put these back on, and if that's all you need, this is the end of the video. If you want to keep on watching, I'm just gonna try desperately to put this back on. I remember the last time I tried to reassemble this, it took me quite some time to get it done. Again, make sure this is sliding freely. If it is, more than likely you'll be good. Because it's this, when it catches in the spin cycle, is what sets off the unbalanced load alarm. Alright. Yep. That's the big part of it. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but you can see this square taper, just like a square taper bottom bracket of a bicycle. You see it has two pegs on the side, and you'll need to arrange it so that those two pegs fit into this little diamond shape. And these two pegs will eventually have to fit. So if it doesn't quite fit the way you had pulled it off, just keep on rotating it till it gets into the right spot. Okie doke. So just as I remember it being a pain last time I did this years ago, it's really hard to get the peg properly seated on the square taper, and if it doesn't seat properly, you still have to rotate the top. I don't know if you can really see it from this angle. That top part that we were spinning earlier, you just kind of spin it till it falls into place. Just rotate it till it kind of falls into the little groove where those two arms go. That's about right there. There. I think that's the place. And then you put the screw back on, and you're supposed to tighten it to 96 inch-pounds. And usually those are the 1/4 inch ratchets. If you don't have one, I think about 8 inch-pounds and a 3/4 inch torque wrench will do. And that's it. Getting the belt on is another pain too. When you get it on, you're gonna hear it snap into place. There. This should snap in. So if you have a 1/4 inch torque wrench, this is one of the cheap ones from Harbor Freight. You want to set it to 96. This is at 80. That's 96 inch-pounds. Or if you don't have a 1/4 inch and you set it at 8 foot-pounds for a 3/8 inch ratchet. So here's a 3/8 inch drive, and this is at 5 pounds. 5 and 0. Change it to 5 and 3. That's 8 pounds, and you're ready to tighten it. There you go. Hear the click? That's 96 inch-pounds. Of course I cheated and used my electric ratchet to get it tighter. But I couldn't record it. So the last time I did the belt, I have a hard time getting this on. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to align the teeth of the belt. You see how it's a grooved belt. I'm just going to line it with the teeth here, and then roll it over the clutch because it's going to rotate counterclockwise freely, but clockwise it'll clutch in and you won't be able to turn it. I'll see if I can get this. It's going to be a real pain because I remember this from years ago. I'm just going to rotate it till hopefully it grabs the groove. Nope, it popped out. So you're going to have trouble like that. And, well, I'm just going to keep on trying. I won't bother recording it because it's going to be a while. Alright, I finally got it on. And if you got it on right, you can see actually the inside tub is actually turning. I don't know if you can see that. And the rest is easier. Just put the front cover back on and test it. And I'll film again later when we get to the rinse and spin cycle and see if it spins freely without pausing for load unbalanced. And I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so now I'm ready to put this all back together. I've since plugged it back in. I put the drain back in its place. a cover. Hopefully it'll stay in place, not flop and hit you in the face. I've put the cover back on, putting it on the proper pegs on each side. And again, just put these 2 screws in place. I'm going to hand tighten them. I don't know if you can see me do this. I'm going to hand thread it and tighten it with my electric ratchet. Alright, got my flashlight, my electric ratchet, tighten it down. On this side, same thing. Sorry. Alright, should be good to go. I'll throw on a little laundry, and I'll skip to the part where we do the rinse and spin, and we'll see how well it works. One thing to note is when you put it all together and you spin it, it should spin pretty smoothly. And if you feel it catching it all, that's what's gonna tug on the clutch and trigger an unbalanced load alert. So hopefully after we spin this sucker, we'll see. Well, it's on its way, and already it sounds a lot smoother. Don't hear that grinding noise that we heard the other day. As you can see, this is a really full load. So if the clutch is going to fail, it's really going to give us a severe warning. If yours says give me an unbalanced load warning, even when it's empty, for sure that clutch is done. So we're already at the rinse and spin. It was rinsing just fine and it was draining, but it just stopped this just moment when I started recording. I'll try to catch it again. There we go, it's rinsing. It's ejecting water. Usually if a load is unbalanced, warning goes off, this rinse wouldn't even start. So right now at 29 minutes, it's still extracting all the water from the bottom of the tub. So we'll see when it starts spinning if it gives us the error. You can hear the water pump pumping, right? Okay, here we go. Here's the spin. No, I have to close it because it's pouring water to rinse. I thought it was done already. I guess I was wrong. Okay, here at 25 minutes it's starting to spin, I think. And it's spinning pretty smoothly. Fortunately, the dryer's making too much of a racket for you to hear. Let me pause the dryer. It's a lot better than what we were getting earlier, or the other day. I think the other day I was during this rinse cycle that the clutch was going off, getting jammed. It wasn't spinning at all. But we'll see. When it starts spinning, I'll try to record it again. At about 20 minutes, the real spinning starts. And if you hear it, it's spinning pretty smoothly. You don't hear that grinding sound that you heard the other day. And it should finish pretty well, I think. So we're already down to 18 minutes. As you can hear, it's running pretty smoothly. I think it's pumping some water out. No? Yeah, it's pumping some water out. You can see it. And it's smooth sailing. I think the last time I did this maintenance was 2010 when I was giving unbalanced load errors. I was thinking at that time the washer was 6 years old and it was dead already with unbalanced errors all the time. But with just a little maintenance, a little grease, maybe half an hour to an hour of your time, yeah, probably closer to an hour, you can maintain your clutch, or the bearing within the clutch, and you'll have a perfectly working washer again for at least a good half a decade. It's been at least 7 years since the last time I've maintenance that part, and if you don't want to maintenance it, you can buy a new one, but I think the last time I checked, I think I checked this morning on Amazon, it was about $130 after shipping. I'll include the part number when I post this video, and you can look and shop around wherever you'd like for the part. And that's it. I hope this video has helped you, and I'll take one more shot right as this thing finishes, and I think it'll be a much happier ending. So here we have it, at 10 minutes it's spinning. It's rinsing again. Okay, well, hopefully it'll be done. So we're done the last 4 minutes. You can hear it spinning freely, smooth, no grinding noises. If there was grinding, it wouldn't even spin this fast. It would just be spinning really slow, driving you nuts. And as it's spinning, it should still be spitting out water like this. You can see that. Obviously, if it's not spinning correctly or if it's unbalanced, it won't be able to extract any water from the clothes. So as you can see, when the washing machine is in its spin, the clutch is basically freewheeling off that bearing, which is just like the bottom bracket of a bicycle. And if it's not well lubricated, if it's not spinning freely, it's going to catch, and it's going to throw the tub off balance. So with the simple fix, regular tools, you don't necessarily need the torque wrench, but it's nice. And some good quality grease. Use the good quality grease to save you some time. And it's actually been about 7 years since the last time I did this. So probably as a preventative maintenance, maybe do it every 4 or 5 years, and maybe you won't even get those errors. Or just the moment you start to get the load unbalance errors, go ahead and take it apart, re-grease that bearing, and you'll be much better off. And that's it. If I have anything to add, I'll tack on an extra segment. Again, this is Sam the Lung Plumber. I wish you all good luck with your washing machine. If you still have this one or the 6800, they're basically the same washing machine. One just has an LCD, the other one has knobs. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye. Alright, we're done. And just so you know, the magnet fix, it doesn't really fix much. All it does is it tricks that little sensor that was over here into not reading the balance. And that's it. Full load of laundry. Didn't have to restrict it to a smaller load. And that's it. Hello again. This is Sam the Lung Plumber. I thought I was done with this job. But unfortunately, the clutch failed again not long after I had finished making the video. And I guess after 13 years, this clutch was done. I eventually ordered a brand new clutch online and replaced it, and it's been working fine. It's actually a month or so after making the video. I decided to tack this on at the end to just let you know that regreasing it didn't quite work. It did work the first time I repaired it, and it did last for a good 5 to 6 years after the regreasing. And this time around it was a slightly different problem, and I'll show you after I unscrew the other two the bolts here. Alright, so skipping to this part, let me open this. What had happened was this part of the clutch, this little spring mechanism, and I think this works like a balancing, like the lead weights on the wheels of cars. And this one had come off. You can see that's actually kind of bent. You can see it. It actually had bent, and this metal cylinder here actually popped out sometime during one of the washes, and it was when I opened it last, it was free floating in here, so I said just forget about it and just ordered a brand new one. And so if you have that problem, I would suggest you go ahead and just buy a brand new clutch. I think I paid somewhere in like just over $100, maybe 110, and it was brand new. I went ahead and regreased the bearings anyway on the brand new clutch, because I really don't like the white lithium grease that they have pre-packed on these clutches. And that's it. I just wanted to share that with you and finish this up, and that's it. Hope you enjoyed my videos, and I hope you have luck repairing your machine, and hopefully you'll have a long life with your Neptune top load washer. Ours has been here since 2004. It's currently 2017, and it's working pretty good, and we still don't regret buying it. So if you either have our top load with the LCD, it'll have unbalanced load. If you have the 6800, I believe, you'll have the UL error code. And that's it. Have a nice day. Bye.